the edge over Tottenham in that race for top four, and Chelsea, despite their thrashing in midweek, are still in the top half of the table. There's been some movements in the bottom half of the Premier League table as well, including big ones for Brentford and Everton, who now find themselves with a healthy gap over that drop zone. Not the case for Nottingham Forest. Luton also still a point from safety. Have Burnley given themselves a late shot, a late fight to stay in the Premier League? Sheffield United, meanwhile, could be relegated this weekend. Lots of could-be's, would-be's. It's that time of the season. What we can confirm for you is that we are stacked with talent on this Team Talks couch this Friday night. Welcoming back from across the pond, Leanne Sanderson is here, and regular and favourites, Darren Lewis. Question to start it all off: do we have a two-horse title race?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think it's Man City. You know, that's what they do, isn't it? I mean, Arsenal, I think that loss against Aston Villa, at this time of the season, I just don't think you can drop any points. Now, Arsenal playing Tottenham at the weekend. We'll come on to talk about that. But I just think City, just the pressure, they can just handle it. But I do think there's something to be said about the points on the board already. I think subconsciously, as a player, you know, they had the games in hand. We've seen Arsenal do it the last couple of years when they had the games in hand and they couldn't get it over the line. But Manchester City, it's what they do. It's what Pep Guardiola does. Serial winners. When the going gets tough, they come alive even more. And I think there's always going to be that question mark over Arsenal based upon the fact that they never seem to have it mentally and psychologically when they need it.
I think you not mentioned Liverpool. Does that mean for you it is two horse? Let's find out what they're
scoring. Also, there are some big obstacles in front of Arsenal still. Spurs have only lost 2 of their last 15 North London derbies at home. And City are not defensively as good as they have been in the past. So although they do it, Leanne's absolutely right. They do know the course, they do know the distance, but defensively they're not the same City as in previous years.
I don't think with Liverpool though, Darren, that when you look at the games, you know, the Palace game, those types of games, the game against Everton, don't know, the wheels seem to be falling off a little bit. They're still a top team based upon, you know, the quality they have, and I agree with you, but I think right now, for me, it's just Arsenal and Man City. But you know everything, so you could be right.
I'm pretty sure we could spend the next hour talking about just those three teams, but we have a lot to get through tonight on Team Talks, and here's what you can look for. We're starting with that North London derby. Let's hear from the managers, Ange Postecoglou, then Mikel Arteta.
Now we are there. We have to look at ourselves and try to perform the best possible way, win our matches, and wait to see what happens. And that's what we discuss. Sounds a bit repetitive, but it's what we have to do.
Do you see it as a two-horse race now between yourselves and Manchester City?
I don't think so. I think this league is tremendously demanding, and it can be still a lot of turns, and we all know how difficult it is to win games in this league.
April has sometimes been a difficult month for Arsenal in the last few years, but how much can you take from the way your side has responded to adversity this month?
Yeah, it's been great. Not only the results, but the performances as well. And we had a big one again in the last London derby against Chelsea, and we have a big one now that I'm sure we're going to have to do it. We want to beat Spurs as well.
And you've virtually got everybody available for selection at the moment. So how much tougher and more resilient are this group, both mentally and physically, than in previous seasons?
Yeah, availability, we mentioned that before, there was going to be something key. It's true, apart from Jurian, that is going to be very close, that we have everybody available, and that's a huge boost that elevates the training session, the competition between the players, and the alternatives as well, to pick the right lineup, to change the game, so it's something really important.
How much excitement does that give you, the growth in this side, both towards the end of this season, but also looking ahead to the next few campaigns?
Yeah, obviously we are fully focused on this one because it's still a lot of at stake, and we really want to get the job done, and we know as well that obviously it's a very young team with a really bright future, and still a lot of room for improvement, and we will try to keep developing it.
And on Tuesday night you said what your side has done physically has been unbelievable. You've played 4 times since Tottenham's last match. How much of a factor do you think that could be on Sunday?
Well, for sure we're going to be fully ready, so we have a bit of time as well to recover and to prepare from the Chelsea game, and I'm sure the team is going to be fully ready to go again on Sunday.
And finally, was yesterday's performance from Manchester City just a further indication that you do need to be perfect between now and the end of the season to give yourselves a chance?
It's another game, and that they managed to win in a convincing way, and something that we cannot control. So let's do what we have to do.
Thank you.
Anita from the Premier League.
Hi, Mikel.
Hi.
You were talking about the fact that nearly all your players are all fit. How much of a selection headache is it for you right now, especially when we see the likes of Partey coming back and performing so well the way he did against Chelsea, and then Trossard, another player, for example?
It's good headaches though. Yeah, you feel for the players, because as well I see how much they want it, and how much everyone wants to start and contribute to a team and impact the team in the right way. So it is always difficult. It's part of the job, but as well they're fully ready to come on the pitch in whenever time that we need them to try to help us to win matches, and the spirit is so good.
The North London derby, you know how important this game is to fans. How does it compare preparing for this game as a manager compared to when you were a player?
More motivation, if anything, because you know what you can give to your people, which is a lot of joy and happiness if we manage to win the game. And obviously when you have the chance to do that and that's in your hand, you really want to make the most of it to try to make it happen.
And how do you find Ange Postecoglou is adjusting to the league? He's been very clear about his style of play, not deviating from that.
Yeah, really impressive with what he's done. I'm not surprised, because I know him. He was in the Australian national team when he was in Japan as well. I follow him when he was at Celtic, and he's always been super clear with a really clear direction and identity of how his teams play, and I love the way his teams play. So I think it's been very good.
And just finally, going into this game, how are you seeing the players? Again, I mentioned just how important this game is, not just for the fans because of what's online for the North London derby, but for the title as a whole.
Enjoying the moment, try to navigate through this in a natural way. They are super competitive at the moment. Everything we do in the training session, they just want to compete, and it's a really good sign, because we know what we're going to have to do. We're going to win it, and that's it. And we have to raise the bar every day in training to try to match that. So when we get to games, we are ready.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Ian Talksport.
Hi, Mikel. How are you?
Thank you.
Beginning of the season, when you brought in Declan Rice, I think everybody thought that was a really good piece of the puzzle to fit into Arsenal. They were less sure about Kai Havertz, but I think we've all been won over now this season with what he's done for you. Just explain for us how much of that was your decision, and how much of that you knew he would come good for you.
Yeah, it's never my decision, it's our decision. We made the decision super aligned with the club vision, and then obviously in the sporting side, Edu and myself, we make all the recommendation. There is a lot of people very important. At the end, you need the ownership as well to back you and then make things happen. But we're very convinced that there were characters first, there were players with the right qualities to fit in our model, in our club. And sometimes it takes a bit of time. It's inevitable. Sometimes you're going to make mistakes. I try to minimize them and try to at least generate the environment and everything that the players need to fulfill their potential.
You mentioned the owners backing you and believing in your process. You've got a young squad here. You've built this young squad. No one handed it to you. You've gone out and built it. It's a squad that challenged last year. It's challenging this year. We'll see whether you win it this year. It's a squad that's going to challenge for a while to come, isn't it?
I hope so, but that's something that you have to show every season, every game, and in this league that's extremely difficult to do it 2 years in a row. We're not satisfied with that. We want to win it, and we're going to make everything that we can to win it. And if we do win it, we will try again to win it, and if we don't, for sure we'll try again.
And if you don't win it, it's still progress, right, this season?
I'm not thinking about that at the moment. I'm just thinking how we're going to win it.
And finally, how do you view the supercomputer, which has you at 26.6% to win it?
I don't know what to say. Hopefully we can tweak that computer and make it a bit higher. Maybe he needs to upload the software. Maybe we need to help him to upload the software or give him more tools. Hopefully we can change that.
Yeah, from sort of the last game, disappointing one for Destiny, for ourselves as well, because it's been a big part of our year, and just an unfortunate sort of incident of training, and he's had the operation, it's gone well, so but hopefully gives him time, sort of pre-season, to get back into it. So we'll miss him. Skippy picked up a small knock as well at training, so he'll miss this weekend. So they're kind of the outs apart from the long-term ones. And Pedro and Richie both trained all week, so both available.
It's obviously been a long break since that Newcastle defeat. I'm sure you probably wanted a match straight away, and Arsenal have had 4 games since. But has there been any positives, maybe the longer-term injuries, the Van der Vens, the Madisons, maybe just to have maybe a couple of weeks? Has there been any positives from that, or did you just want a game straight after that Newcastle match?
Oh, look, yeah, I mean, you prefer games, absolutely, especially this time of the year. It's kind of unusual to sort of have, 2 weeks of no games at all, particularly when, there's a fair bit of football happening and, you're not involved. So we've tried to use that time as well as possible. We've trained, we've trained hard. The players, to be fair to them, have embraced that and trained. But, yeah, definitely looking forward to having a game, that's for sure.
I know you've always said, fourth this, doesn't matter whether it's fifth, Champions League, it's about progression in the next season, everything like that. But North London Derby, such a brilliant match, but then it's Chelsea on the Thursday, then it's Liverpool, 3 huge matches. Will you know more maybe about the squad you've got at the moment and where maybe you are as a team at the moment after those 3 massive games?
Look, every time you're out there is a chance to measure yourself, for sure. I mean, I've got a fair idea of where we're at and, sort of what progress we've made, what progress we need to make. But it's just another great challenge for us. As you said, there's 3 big games, and then we finish the season with 3 games. So, and they're all games of consequence for us, for the opposition. So, I think the players are looking forward to that as well. This time of the year, usually you want to be playing for something, and certainly the games we'll be involved in will have something in them. So, looking forward to it.
Such a special game, this one. I know you had a taste of it at the Emirates in September, and probably unlucky maybe not to have got the win in the second half. But there's a feeling among some Spurs fans that a priority is that whatever happens with Spurs this season, they don't want to see Arsenal win the league. Do you understand that? What's your take on that, with some fans feeling that? Yeah,
I mean, it's fair enough. Again, I'm not going to dictate how fans feel or what they feel is important. We understand the importance of the game, and we understand the importance of, particularly at home in these kind of games, to not let our biggest rival or in the biggest derby for us get on top of us. So we understand the consequences of that, but ultimately it's still about us trying to measure ourselves against the teams we want to be challenging on a more consistent basis, and it's a great opportunity to do that on Sunday. Thanks, bud.
Hi, Ange. Good afternoon. Good seeing you. Obviously, Newcastle United and Arsenal, they present a different challenge. Their league position is very different as well. But overall, what's the biggest improvement you want to see as a collective ahead of a very tough task at home this Sunday?
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't think one's a reference point for the other. I mean, the Newcastle game, it was really disappointing for us on a number of levels. Obviously the result was poor, but the performance didn't anywhere reach the levels we wanted to. But I think we've learned a lot of it out of that. The players have learned a lot out of that. But irrespective of that, I think it doesn't matter what you've done in the previous game. When you're playing in such a big game, a derby, particularly at this time of the year, where like I said, there's great meaning to the points. I think for both clubs, what's happened previously, whether that's the immediate past or further back, becomes irrelevant, because it's going to be a tough game. It's going to have a bit of an edge to it. Be a great atmosphere. You just got to get ready to sort of make sure that you match those levels with a performance.
Are you allergic to us? Darren's just been sneezing. Are you okay?
I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine.
Okay, the show must go on.
Indeed.
Right, let's get into it. Spurs have had a little break, a little end-of-season break. 2 weeks without any football, and then they go straight into the North London Derby. Are you of the opinion that that's a good thing because they'll have had a rest? or a bad thing because they won't have that momentum?
I think it's a combination of the two. I think for this type of game, I think it's one of the biggest rivalries in the world. You know, you see the rivalry of Everton-Liverpool. It's kind of a friendly rivalry, isn't it, to a certain degree? This Tottenham-Arsenal game, there's no rivalry. There's no, you know, friendliness within this game. It's the fixture list that all the fans look out for. So I think if you're on a good run of games, then you never want to have that break. But I think ultimately, Ange Postecoglou did an amazing job when he first got in there. You know, that game against Newcastle, those types of games, those types of performances, conceding goals. But this is the game that I look forward to in the season as well, because the rivalry, the feeling, it doesn't really matter about form in this type of fixture, does it?
No.
Going into games, you can look at all the statistics, but this type of stuff...
The Everton win over Liverpool proves that.
Exactly. This type of stuff, the rivalries are just so intense within this fixture that it's one of those ones where all the players, hopefully it comes down to the players, the feeling, if they know what it means within this fixture. And I think someone like Mikel Arteta does know, but Ange Postecoglou...
When you played for Arsenal, were you focusing on the football or, as you say, the rivalry?
I mean, it's a combination of the two again, because we were always the best. So it was difficult. And that's not me saying that in an arrogant way. It's the reality. So I think a lot of teams feared playing against us. So I think we had the upper hand. And I think ultimately, when I was at Arsenal, Tottenham women weren't in the top tier. So it was a little bit different. But I think... You know, Tottenham need to win ultimately, but I think Arsenal win, that they're in the title race, and this is a massive one. What a massive game. But I love these types of games. I wanted to always be involved in these types of moments.
What's interesting is that Spurs got to play all three, the contenders, before the end of the season. So they will have a big say in the title race. But what you have just said now has made me think...
To follow on from the point you made about being the disruptor, that Tottenham want to be in those moments where they're fighting for the top four, not just, oh, actually, we're going to beat Arsenal just to put them out the top. I mean, the fans will love that.
Yes,
won't they?
yes,
And then
yes.
you've got to look at that. It's a reality.
Well, that's what I wrote in my assessment of the press conference for tomorrow's newspaper. Spoiler alert! That the bragging rights, they're kind of moving away from that. And he said, "I want to move away." He said, Postecoglou, from this idea that we have to be so desperate for something that we'll be happy if we just stop Arsenal from winning the league. We have to aspire to more than that.
Yeah. What was he saying about the state of his team? Because I know Udogie is out. I know that there were some questions over Pedro Porro, for example.
Porro's available, as we understand it, but Udogie's out for the rest of the season. But he was very philosophical about that. Ben Davies will come in for him. He had no compunction about saying that in the press conference. He says that's the most important thing, the mentality going into this match. It's got to be high. We have to have the belief that we can compete with Arsenal. And of course, they've had some wonderful results so far this season, so there's nothing to say, particularly given, as you say, the Merseyside derby that we...
Noon. Just from their point of view, they failed to score in a couple of games, Villa, Champions League against Bayern Munich, but they found the back of the net. Trossard's been key for that.
Yeah, and I think the addition of Trossard, I don't think people expected him to have that type of impact, but he has. He almost, they thought, oh, we're going to get him as a squad player. And I think he's been brilliant. Again, Kai Havertz. Again, like, you know, playing in that role. But I think Trossard's been excellent. You see Martinelli dropping to the bench. He's had an indifferent season this year, and he has quality. And I think people thought Trossard would just be that player that would come off the bench every now and again. But we know he can produce. He did it at Brighton.
So let's see where we lie then in terms of the title race. Let's have a look at the remaining fixtures for the three protagonists involved. So Arsenal at the minute at the summit by the solitary point. But of course, Manchester City have that crucial game in hand. So they've got 5, Arsenal have got 4 and Liverpool have got 4. Liverpool have got work to do, of course. They're 3 points off Arsenal. Now, this is interesting, right? So we've calculated what those 3 sides got against those opponents last season. Do you know what it comes out as? All 3 are level on 86 points. Really? What's the chances of that happening again?
That was last season, Manish. This is the new season.
Yeah, but come on.
You thought he had a good argument there, Ken.
When you look at City's fixtures, the only one that could be a trip hazard is Tottenham away.
Yeah.
And I just feel as though Tottenham, it'll be a toe-to-toe game. I think both coaches will totally go for it, and both will concede chances. But I just feel as though City in this mood have just got that killer instinct.
Yeah.
Forest are fighting for their life down there. Fulham are a pretty unique team at times. You know, they can be really very unpredictable. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think that Tottenham game is the big one for them.
Would you say so as well? Spurs? Although you said Brighton was going to be the trickiest.
Yeah. He was just being humble, wasn't he?
No, well, I kind of, do you know what? I kind of think some of the games that they have are sometimes trickier. They say it might be an easier run, but that's just based on the names, their positioning in the table in comparison to some of the other teams. I think they can all potentially be banana skins. I think if you look at City's run in, 15, 20 games ago, they had a run of 7 games, which was possibly harder than Arsenal's and Liverpool's, and they managed to come through that, I wouldn't say so much as unscathed, but without dropping too many points, and that kept them where they are in the table. So when they have had the game to catch up on, they've caught up, and now they're in so many ways, they're in a pole position. But for me, they have to go into all these games with the same attitude they went into Brighton, with the same attitude they went into Real Madrid. Otherwise, they will drop points against them.
I think this weekend for Arsenal is huge. North London derby. If anyone's desperate for them not to win the title, it'll be their arch rivals, won't it?
Them, yeah.
Do you know, and Spurs, they're going to have the biggest say. Their form in the next 3 or 4 games, they're going to be the ones, whoever they can pull a result out against, that's what it'll boil down to.
City have lost on each of their visits to Spurs' new stadium.
I was there for the games
Premier League
with my son. To be fair, they got hammered, but they've somehow found a way to win the game.
Yeah, but City can't afford for that to happen again.
No, but I think the way Tottenham play is going to play into Pep's hands. You know, they put the fullbacks into those midfield positions. We saw what Brighton did. Ange will do the same, or similar.
Yeah.
And Pep will have a game plan for it. He just play chess and they'll win it.
And I think without Ndogi, that could be a massive problem for Spurs.
Yeah.
I think he's injured, but I don't know. I honestly think...
Has that raised a doubt for you now?
No, I don't think so. I think in many ways, City will be in the driving pole position for the league by that Spurs game. So that Spurs game, they may be able to afford to draw that and then go away and win the last game of the season and still win the league.
I think in all fairness, with your stat about City not winning, this is a different Spurs.
Oh, it was a privilege to watch a game with you two.
I'm glad I'm not with him Sunday, I'll tell you.
We will have to wait and see first, won't you?
Well, yeah, it's true.
You know it's going right when your right back scores 2, and right, as you described, one off his shin.
But like Ben White's performance tonight, you know, in a game where, you know, we know how well he can get round Saka, you know what I mean, because Cucurella causes him so much problems in respect of the marking. So to see him get on the score sheet but do what he does on a weekly basis, getting round that winger, getting round Saka is brilliant, and good luck to him tonight. He deserved his luck with a goal as well.
Let's speak to our good friend who played in that position sometimes for Arsenal, who's been watching at the Emirates Stadium, Kolo Touré. Come on then, Kolo, do you ever score any like that from right back?
No, I don't think so. I wish, but no, unfortunately.
How impressed were you with that second half performance in particular?
Yeah, very, very impressed with his second half of Arsenal. I think in the first half they should have been 2 up, in my opinion, and then I think in the second half they really played the way they should, and they create chances and they capitalized the chances, which was very, very important. You could see that Chelsea were dangerous on the break, especially in the first half, but I think overall Arsenal dominate all this game. Arsenal deserve the win, and this is brilliant from this team, because I think that they deserve what they're doing right now. They play fantastic football tonight, and as a fan there, I was really delighted to see how they perform and how they control that game.
Yeah, they went for the throat, ruthless tonight.
Absolutely, absolutely. They were ruthless, and they create a lot of chances, and they score them. You know, the first goal was brilliant. I think, and second goal as well. You know, you can see here, Ben White, perfect, he scored. And Havertz was on fire. He played really, really well and scored a 2 brilliant goals. He deserves, because he's a hard worker. He worked really hard for the team, and I think he was really, really good tonight, definitely.
And again, they're sharing the goals around, Kolo, aren't they?
Pardon?
They're sharing the goals around.
Absolutely. And before the game, we were talking, and I was talking to one of journalists there. They asked me about Saka. They said the Saka need to score more goals now. I said to her that it's very important that this is the moment that, you know, you don't want to count only on your best players. You need to have the players around your best player to perform. And that's what Arsenal did. Saka today, you could say around your best player to perform. And that's what Arsenal did. Saka today, you could see that he was well marked by Cucurella, and Ben Wright did what he needed to do, which was to do the all overlaps, and he scored his second goal, and that was really, really important for Arsenal to have players around those top players to perform.
Now, we know it's not in Arsenal's hands, but all they can do is their job. They've done it emphatically tonight with 4 left to go. If you're in that dressing room, even scoring 5 against Chelsea, their biggest ever win in this Premier League fixture against them, what would that do to the dressing room at this critical stage?
I think that showed the strength of this team. This is a team that have fantastic players. This is a team that play with a lot of energy. This is a team that can beat any team. And I think that the Aston Villa was one of the game that they didn't perform bad. They didn't play bad, but I think they haven't managed to score the occasion that they created. But I think tonight they were really clinical. Everybody was very focused. They played with high intensity, and they scored those goals who make the difference. Credit to the gaffer again. He's doing a brilliant job, and I hope that they keep going and doing what they're doing right now.
And that's all they can do is put some sort of pressure on your other former club, Manchester City, who now play on Thursday.
Absolutely. I think tonight was huge for Arsenal, because when you play first and you win your games, the other team that is in competition with you are under pressure because they have to perform. Now Arsenal have 4 points on Man City and 3 points on Liverpool, and I think that this is huge psychologically for Arsenal, and psychologically for Liverpool and Man City. They can see the pressure. Of course, City are used to that kind of situation, and we know that they can beat any team in that moment of the year. That's where they are really, really strong, clinical. They don't give any chance. But I think Arsenal done their job, and now they can look what will happen with the other 2 contenders.
Absolutely. And the good news is, on May the 19th, Kolo, I can still say to you, your former club won the Premier League title. You've got all bases covered, haven't you, with the top 3, so you're all right.
Absolutely. I'm lucky.
You're more than lucky, my friend. Well done. Nice to see you again. Thank you very much, Kolo.
Thank you very much, guys. Nice to talk to you.
That's Kolo Touré. OK, Arsenal doing their job. Top of the league, 4 clear of City, 3 clear of Liverpool, who, of course, play in the Merseyside derby tomorrow, bringing you that on Match Day Live from Goodison Park. And I mentioned the difference in the goal difference with those goals tonight. Who knows if it'll come down to that. 4 left to play for Arsenal. Huge North London derby, the biggest in years, away at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday. Home games against Bournemouth and Everton, and a trip to Old Trafford. And then they can only watch, as Mikel Arteta said on Thursday, to see what City do at Brighton. Now, listen, they're the treble winners, they're the reigning champions, they've won 3 in a row. But they wouldn't be human if a tiny bit of extra pressure was placed on them, 4 points behind now.
Well, of course, because the thing is, they have to still win the games. We know that they're capable of winning the games, but all Arsenal can do, like we heard Leandro Trossard say then, Ben White, is to win their games. Now, that's what Arsenal had to do before the Villa game. They had to keep winning those games. Hopefully that won't come back to bite them, because it was a poor result for them. But we know that City, in those games, are probably capable of beating all of them. So you have to win all your games. And you've got there's no wiggle room for you, because if they and City now, we'll see what they are. If everybody says, well, they know what they're doing at this stage of the season, they know how to do it, they're going to have to do it again, and they have to prove to us, yeah, we've done this before, and this is what we do. So they're going to have to win all of those games, because I'm looking at those games, and obviously Tottenham, the North London derby is a tough game. I think Man United away is always going to be a tough game. But I still think Arsenal are capable of winning all 4 of those games. But so is City capable of winning all 6 of them.
Yeah, you look at City's fixtures, they're the easier fixtures. And I'm looking at Forest. Forest have got to get points. So that comes maybe a little bit open game. They've got to go for it. Tottenham, when they play Tottenham have got to go for it if they're still in the hunt for Champions League. Whereas, maybe Brighton play that way anyway. If they're at home, they're going to be playing a pretty open game. Although they'll try and tuck the belt in a bit against City, you have to, but they still emphasise on going forward. So those games, I'm seeing the opposition not only on paper, but I'm thinking what they've got to play for. I don't see many points drop there from City.
No. Tottenham going to play a part. They've got to play all three.
They are. They've got to play Liverpool as well, yeah. And I think Villa have got to play Liverpool and Man City as well. So they've beaten Arsenal, Villa. So they're going to have a big say for themselves, obviously. But for the running, it's not over yet by any means.
Can you see a scenario, both of you, where we get to the final day and all three of them are in with a sniff?
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah. Because but somewhere along the
you don't want that, do you?
I don't know if I
you
want
have to think about that.
No, because if it comes down to the last game and it's Everton at home in the last game, you probably fancy Arsenal. If it came down to that, obviously you've got West Ham. I think the last game of the season
could be David Moyes' final game.
I still think that there's maybe, I don't know, somewhere along the line, I'm praying that someone could cause City a problem or Liverpool a problem, so that it can come down to it. Because if it comes down to it, then it's goal difference.
You might need Tottenham to do you a favour.
Might need Tottenham. And if Tottenham could do us a favour, honestly...
Well, they've got to play City and Liverpool, haven't they?
I just want Tottenham to do the best they can, because Tottenham deserve to be in the top four as well.
This is what it comes down to. These are the margins.
I love it.
Oh, dear. I'll have to replay that at the end of the season. Right, when we come back, we will talk the other side of the story.
At least you're making them ask the question.
Sorry, Kel, I just want to say, with us in the newspapers, Arsenal going back, that if Arsenal had lost that game, the narrative everywhere would have been it's falling apart. With City, them going back top, even though they've got their defensive deficiencies, they're nowhere near as balanced as they normally are. They haven't got the best defence as they normally do when they go on to win a title. I say it like they do it every year. They do.
Well, yeah, past three. So.
I'm on safe ground. But there is that belief in them now. They've won people over again. People are writing it as if this is going to go right to the wire if it's not already City's title to lose. So Arsenal are actually convincing the people writing the narrative. They are actually writing it for them.
Yeah, and I just wonder if there is a note of caution to be expressed around Arsenal. It's going to fall to you to be the naysayer. Purely just I'm trying to give everybody an equal amount. But only because this is a Wolves side who've caused problems for teams high up the table at various stages. They've beaten Manchester City, they've beaten Tottenham twice. They've had good results against Chelsea as well. But this time around, I think they had 10 first-team players available. They had 5 teenagers on the bench, including a 15-year-old who was making his first appearance, surprisingly, in the squad. He hadn't got any under his belt before that.
There was a rumour he was doing his homework on the bench.
Although I did ask the question to somebody I was watching the game with. I was like, God, do you think you have to go into school tomorrow? He went, probably not. It's Sunday. all that aside, look, and even against that Wolves side, who are really up against it, and we talk about key injuries to teams. They've been absolutely decimated by injuries at the moment, and it's their really creative players who are there. Yeah. They put a really professional job together to make things difficult for Arsenal, and still Arsenal found it a bit difficult. So, I mean, they're not quite over that hurdle yet, are they, Arsenal?
I think there's a change. I think if you look back to when Arsenal went on that winning run of something like 10 to 12 games back to back, they were free-flowing and scoring loads of goals. I almost think, I wouldn't say it's dried up, I would just say the chances that they are creating, their front three are not taken. For whatever reasons, I'd go back to the Brighton game where it was a sketchy one as well and they needed to win that game and they half them pathed and they just couldn't get the goal in until that first goal went in, and then it was kind of like, we can kind of play now. And I think they're just not firing on all cylinders in that front area.
Could say the same for all 3 teams, that are going for the title at the moment. It's interesting. I wonder if, from a goal-scoring perspective, if just that extra little bit of tension can just make it a bit harder to finish those chances, or even just a split-second extra decision, maybe make you doubt yourself a bit. Or...
No, it's one of those. I think for somebody like me, I would say, yeah, that's possible. But I think when you've got the strikers that all of these teams have scored goals in abundance, like if you look at Haaland, he scored 50-odd goals. I think Darwin Núñez, as much as he misses, he does get himself in those positions to score goals. And the same with the Arsenal players. But I think, I don't know, for me, I would say more of a midfielder mentality.
Yeah.
Then I think that sort of pressure would get. For Benty, I think that, for him, he would see that as like...
I can score. Yeah.
Goals
And it
now.
has been midfielders
Yeah.
who've been scoring a lot of Arsenal's goals
Yeah.
this season. They've really spread the
But
goals
they've
around.
had to, because
Yeah.
you look at Martinelli, his form this season. I know he's had a few injuries as well. His form, his numbers have deserted him. I would say his performances has been okay, maybe not as electric as last season. Odegaard's numbers last season were crazy, but this season they've dropped a little bit. Saka, to me, he looks tired, but that's because there is no cover on that right-hand side. He has to literally play every single week, and that comes back to squad rotation, but that's obviously for another day. But when you look at the three squads, and look at the firepower, I think Arsenal's firepower is not as strong as Liverpool's or Manchester City's. Like Liverpool's, they can rotate their three twice, maybe even three times. City the same. Arsenal almost like Trossard, Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus.
Do you think that? If you compare that to City, then I think it's a bit different. But in terms of Liverpool, I wouldn't necessarily agree. I would say the difference between, say, Klopp and Arteta is that Klopp has trusted in his younger players, like your Kwanzas, your Elliots.
Well, he's had to.
He's given them. Whereas when Arsenal need to rotate, it's like he just doesn't believe in Smith Rowe or Nelson, to the point where when they do get that chance, all they're thinking about is, man, I can't make a mistake, otherwise I'm never going to get another
I've got
minute.
a stat on that, which is quite interesting, which is that Arsenal and Manchester City have used the fewest number of players in the Premier League this season, 25. It's a league low. But Manchester City have made the most changes to their starting 11 of anybody in the league, and Arsenal, I think, are 12th. That might have changed. That was true on Saturday night. It might have changed after Sunday's games, but it just gives you an idea. So Arsenal players, I think 6 of the top 7 players who've played minutes in the Premier League are Arsenal players so far this season.
He don't rotate them, does he? It's really weird.
Do you know what, I think when you look at Liverpool's front three, though, and Diaz, Gakpo, Salah, Nunez, at some point this season, they've done well and earned the right. Jota's another one coming off the bench. They've done
They've
well.
all been injured as well, so they've had to. It's not a choice. It's been forced upon.
Exactly, but the likes of Reece Nelson, who's come in at times, just hasn't been good enough. He hasn't been good enough. Smith Rowe, for whatever reason, done really well a couple of years ago. Effectively saved Arteta's job when him and Saka first broke through. He hasn't really been given an opportunity. Trossard in and out, and that's really it. Other than that, so they haven't really got the numbers to kind of, and especially at this start of the season where everything is pressure, where it's not about performances anymore, it's just about the result. It's the result. Arteta's probably looking at this squad thinking, well, I can't afford to just rest Saka for this game because not only are we challenging for the Champions League, we're challenging for the Premier League as well. So I can't trust a Reece Nelson instead of Saka because it's just not possible. So that's something I think going forward he'll have to look at for sure.